What is up, guys? My name is Will and welcome back to the channel. So it's currently day 434 and a half days of lockdown, quarantine, or whatever the heck you want to call it. But today we're back in the garage and we're going to work on the Vega. Finally going to do the thing I keep talking about, keep putting off and talking about some more. We're finally going to put the front brake rotors and calipers on this car and get it ready to go. Hopefully, maybe, we'll see. So we'll get the rotors ripped off of this car, get them cleaned up, put the new ones on, and then we'll continue on. Alright, so we got the wheel off. So in order to take the brake rotor off, you got to take this cover off, which is pretty common on most rear-wheel drive vehicles. You just kind of pry it off. It's really just a dust cap to protect the bearings from all the grease and stuff. So it comes off. It's usually really gross inside. So then, what you'll find in here is a cotter pin. So what you do, unbend the cotter pin, pull it out, never reuse these. It's a whole discussion to have with a bunch of people. So I usually grab the side cutters, rip them out. Like I said, since you're not going to reuse it, just destroy it. That way you can't. Then throw that away later. So then what you're left with is a big old castle nut, which is always covered in grease and gross. So grab it and you just spin it off. I've had these rotors off before, so these are just loose on there, or tight enough to at least hold the wheels on so I can roll the car around. So anyways, so you grab onto them and just spin them off, and then the whole disc brake and everything just kind of falls off the car.
Tropical vibes are taking over.
So then, once you got that castle nut off, everything just falls off. Like so. And there's usually a washer in there. That because I want to keep the washer on there. That way it helps hold everything together. So you keep the washer on there, which the washer rides, on this inner race right here, and then the nut goes on. And if you didn't have the washer, the nut would just go on, and the nut would end up riding into the inner race of the bearing. And then you'd end up ruining the bearing and the nut and have all sorts of problems. And so anyways, so there's the inner bearing, or outer bearing, I guess. And the inner one is right here, just kind of sits on the spindle. And those are always gross. Looks like these might have been repacked at some point not too long ago, or in their life. That one actually doesn't feel too bad. A little dry maybe, but anyways, so that's one side off. We'll get the other side off, and then we got to push the studs out of these rotors. Alright guys, so I got the studs pushed out of the old rotors and into the new to me rotors. So I also got new seals, so we can put those on the back sides of these new rotors, and then got the new to me calipers with new hoses on it that'll go on. But as I'm sure you guys are wondering, why did I buy rusty rotors when I already have rusty rotors? Well, so the first real reason is that you can't actually find new rotors for this car. Like, I have one, but it's all rusty. It came with the car, and I've looked all over the internet, can't find any. Took the old rotors into one or two O'Reilly's because they still turn rotors, and they wouldn't even touch them. So that's fun. Second reason, I don't know if you can see it because I tried to bust the rust off of this one originally, is that this one's got lots of pitting in it, and you know, you can tell it's been well used and sat outside, whereas these ones have very light, I say light, but it's pretty much just surface rust. Like, it should all just come off with a wire wheel, and the rotors are actually smooth, which is super nice. So that's the real reason. So these new to me ones should clean up nicely, and we should be able to actually use them for a while until I decide to sell the car or blow it apart and put new stuff on it. We'll see. So anyways, so I'm going to knock the rust off of these rotors, and we'll slap them on. So it should be lots of fun. So here we go. Right here is where my drill died. As you can see, not perfect, but they turned out a heck of a lot better than they were. So those should work real good for stopping this car, hopefully. So on to cleaning them up some more. Alright, so ideally when you're replacing, front wheel bearings or just, checking them, you'd go through, completely clean them, and make sure that they are still good and all that fun stuff. I unfortunately don't have any brake clean or really a good way to clean parts, so what I'm going to do is wipe all the old grease off these bearings, make sure they feel smooth, nothing like they're not bad, and then hopefully repack and reuse them because they should be good. I mean, really, bearings shouldn't go bad very often, at least as long as they're well maintained, and not subjected to like really harsh impacts and some of that kind of stuff. So we'll get these cleaned up and see what we find. Again, like I said, they should be, that actually feels pretty good. There's no excess bumpiness or anything like that, so we'll maybe I'll just drop this one back in. Again, get all the grease off and find out. So I got the bearings all cleaned up. They all felt pretty good. Got a lot of gross stuff off of them. So anyways, so what I'm going to do is repack these and start putting everything back together. I'm going to get even more greasy.
Tropical vibes are taking over. I think she knows it, and I'm sure. She
Alright, so bearings are packed in some sort of fashion. I really just tried to get grease to be popping out of the top of them, as you may or may not have seen. Hopefully they're good. I have limited experience with packing bearings, so we'll find out. So the real plan was just to get some new grease in there, and then we'll put some new grease inside of the hub and a little bit on the spindle, actually everything in here, and then we'll put the new seals in, get them put on the car, get them adjusted, and continue on with life. So yeah, so here we go.
So
Now I've got the rear bearings in, or inner bearings, whatever you want to call them. Comes probably the single most important part of any sort of bearing replacement. That's putting in the seal. And the real important part out of all of this that I cannot stress enough is that you do not want to hit this directly with a hammer. You want to make sure you hit it with like a seal installer, or something that will distribute the force across this. And you also want to make sure that it goes in straight, because if it's a little cockeyed or dented, you're going to have a leak and it's going to be a whole bad time. Like, you're going to get dirt in there and just fail the bearings right away. Luckily I have a seal installer, so that's what I'm going to use to drive both of these in. I just have to make sure that I put them in the correct direction, which I don't know that these necessarily have a front or a back to them, but if they do, you want to make sure that you put them in correctly, which I think I have the right way. I'm not completely sure on that one. But I think these have a little bit of a taper on them, and I'm pretty sure that you drive them in wide end first. Maybe not. No, I think you drive them in with the taper. That way they don't back out. Otherwise, I'll be doing another video about this kind of stuff. Alright, so now we got the rear seals in these hubs. Now comes the second most important part, putting it all back on the spindle without messing up the seal. This part is relatively easy. You just gotta kind of keep it centered on there, and then just hold it and try not to move around too much. So we'll get that on quick and hopefully get the bearings seated and move on to the other side.
taking over. I think she knows it, but I'm sure. She banging to me now, but these hours, so
So the way the manual said to do this, at least the way I read it, is once you've got everything kind of tight, like finger tight, you're supposed to grab your large pliers and run this nut down until the bearings pretty much don't spin. That way you kind of seat them in there. And then what you do is you back the nut off and then run it back down to, it said 12 foot-pounds, which is basically finger tight, which is also what that manual said. So we'll do that, and then you back the nut off one flat from finger tight and put the cotter pin through it. So here we go. So as you guys saw, I was playing with it, getting it all seated and everything. But when I backed the nut off, it seemed to be too loose. There seemed to be too much play in the whole hub assembly, in and out. So what I did is added about a half a turn back onto that nut, so it feels like there's almost no movement now, which I think is where it's supposed to be. It doesn't feel overly tight when you turn the disc, and everything feels smooth, so I think that's where we're going to leave it. I need to find some cotter pins obviously to throw in it, but that's what we'll do on the other side. So here we go. Alright, so hopefully you guys can hear me over the lawnmowers and stuff, but I'm going to put the calipers back on, and one trick that you guys can use is, if you don't remember which side the calipers go on, look at the bleeder. It always goes up. So in the case of this car, calipers go on the back side of the rotors and sit like this, bleeder up. So get these slapped in quick and then fight the hose on. Alright guys, so there, I got the calipers mounted up, got the brake rotors on, also got the lines all attached on both sides, so this car should have a good brake system now, hopefully. I don't know, haven't filled it, we'll worry about that another time. Getting tired, and yeah, that's just about it, just tired of it for now. So anyways, next time what will we do next time? Fill the brake system with fluid, make sure everything holds pressure and doesn't leak. Put more hoses in. Gotta put the fuel tank and the fuel system back together. So yeah, so maybe next time we'll do that. I don't know. We'll see. So anyways, appreciate you guys stopping by. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy watching me work on this lovely vehicle. And I will catch you next time. Stay safe out there, guys.